There's a quietly devastating truth about how addiction subtly infiltrates our lives. You might not even realize it's happening at first. It doesn't always look like a stereotypical needle or a bottle of booze. Sometimes it manifests as mindlessly scrolling through Instagram for the 10th time in as many minutes. Sometimes it's that desperate need for a text from someone, just to feel okay, to feel validated. Sometimes it's watching just one more episode, which turns into 2, then 3, then suddenly you've binged an entire season, and this pattern starts to feel normal, until it doesn't anymore. You're not even chasing a high at that point. You're simply trying to escape a crushing low. And the really unsettling thing is that most of us don't even understand where that deep-seated low originates. If you were to ask the renowned Swiss psychologist Carl Jung about how to effectively treat addiction, he wouldn't begin with a harsh detox program. He wouldn't even immediately focus on the addictive behavior itself. Instead, he'd delve into the depths of your soul. Because Jung firmly believed that addiction wasn't the root problem, it was merely a symptom of something far deeper. We're living in a world that's starved for genuine dopamine and obsessed with fleeting stimulation. Our brains are constantly searching for ways to feel better, but they're trapped in a vicious cycle. Dopamine, the chemical we associate with motivation, pleasure, and reward, is becoming increasingly depleted. This isn't solely due to our actions, but also because of our lack of self-understanding. Jung termed this the disconnection from the self. He wasn't referring to your ego, your social status, or your job title. He was talking about your authentic self, the deepest, most integrated version of who you truly are. The part of you that's connected to your inherent purpose, your creative potential, and a sense of profound meaning. According to Jung, addiction is essentially a spiritual thirst, a desperate cry from the unconscious, not just for temporary relief, but for a profound sense of wholeness. In his own words, every form of addiction is bad, no matter whether the narcotic be alcohol or morphine or idealism. What he truly meant was, the problem isn't the substance itself, it's the underlying emptiness that drives the craving. This is precisely where most modern approaches to treating addiction ultimately fall short. We focus on treating the surface-level habit, but we fail to connect with the human being underneath. We patch the obvious leak, but we completely ignore the underlying cracks in the foundation. Jung believed that lasting, genuine healing can only occur when we summon the courage to turn inward and confront the shadow aspects of ourselves that we've long suppressed. These are the parts we judge, the parts we fear, the parts that are desperately yearning to be acknowledged, not silenced. If that thought feels overwhelming, know that you're absolutely not alone. Because here's the raw truth, the shadow isn't inherently evil or bad. It's simply repressed energy. And ironically, it's within that very shadow that the potential for profound healing resides. But here's the truly amazing part, so hang tight. Jung didn't just leave us with abstract theories. He provided a detailed map, a comprehensive psychological and spiritual toolkit to help us begin reintegrating those lost aspects of ourselves. These are practical tools that help us understand why our dopamine levels are depleted in the first place, and how to cultivate a way of life that naturally restores them. Not by constantly chasing fleeting pleasures, but by aligning ourselves with a deeper sense of purpose. We're going to delve into those tools, practical tools, spiritual tools, even some that you can start implementing today. So stick around until the very end of this video, because what you'll discover isn't just a method for treating addiction, it's a path to finally understanding the part of yourself that's been desperately calling out through it. And before we move forward, if you're someone who enjoys expanding your mind and exploring the deeper, more meaningful layers of life, make sure to subscribe to Fractal Wisdom, so you never miss a moment of this incredible journey inward. So, if addiction is merely a symptom and not the fundamental cause, then what lies beneath the surface? Let's discuss dopamine, not just as a trendy buzzword, but as a crucial messenger. Dopamine isn't simply the feel-good chemical. It's the driving force behind every little action that makes us feel genuinely alive. It embodies motivation, anticipation, and reward. It's that little ping of a new message, the first delicious bite of your favorite dessert, that warm and fuzzy text that simply says, "Thinking of you." And when you're consistently running low on dopamine, life starts to feel dull, uninspired, and utterly flat. That's when the insatiable cravings begin to take hold. But dopamine depletion doesn't typically start with a mindless Netflix binge or a greasy fast food craving. It usually starts much, much earlier in life. It often stems from persistent emotional suppression, from environments where authenticity came at a high price. Perhaps you felt pressured to be the good kid, the perpetually strong one, or the constant fixer for everyone else's problems. You learned to push your own needs aside simply to survive. And in that very act of self-suppression, you became disconnected from your authentic self. Jung referred to this as psychic splitting. It's when you bury the parts of yourself that weren't deemed acceptable and construct a carefully crafted mask instead. And what does the brain do in response to that kind of chronic disconnection? It desperately searches for relief. Some people seek it in a bottle, others in an unhealthy romantic relationship, or in the captivating glow of a screen. But it's not really about the specific thing itself. It's about the feeling they're desperately trying to recreate, a fleeting spark of meaning, a momentary sense of feeling enough, even if it's just for a brief escape. So now we find ourselves caught not just in addiction, but in a relentless loop, inner emptiness leading to a dopamine crash, followed by escape behavior, overwhelming shame, and ultimately, even more profound emptiness. Carl Jung deeply understood that healing this destructive loop isn't about sheer willpower. It's about integration, about bringing all the fragmented pieces back together. He once profoundly wrote, "We don't become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." That means having the courage to turn towards the part of you that's hurting, not running away from it. It means asking yourself, what deep-seated pain is this addiction trying to numb? And what essential part of myself have I abandoned in order to cope with it? This is where Jung's approach radically diverges from traditional models of addiction treatment. He didn't just want you to achieve sobriety, he wanted you to become whole, to experience genuine integration. And that profound wholeness begins with awareness, with seeing these destructive patterns not as personal failures, but as valuable clues, as little smoke signals from your unconscious mind, guiding you back home to yourself. This is why Jung believed that dreams were sacred, and why he considered symbols and archetypes to be so incredibly important. They were essentially messages from the long-forgotten parts of ourselves. The inner child, the rebellious spirit, the compassionate healer, the wounded soul, all of them are still alive and well inside of you. And until we create space to acknowledge them, we'll continue to seek wholeness through external things that were never truly meant to complete us. But there's truly good news on the horizon, because the very moment you stop viewing addiction as a personal failure and begin to see it as a powerful message is the moment that true healing can begin. Addiction isn't who you are at your core. It's simply a coping mechanism that your psyche ingeniously created to protect you from a deep-seated pain that you never had the opportunity to fully process. But now you're ready. You're curious. And that is absolutely everything. So let's delve into 3 powerful tools, practical, spiritual, and soul-nourishing, that can help you connect with your deeper self and reveal the underlying truth behind those compulsive patterns. These tools aren't about engaging in a fierce battle against addiction. They're about learning to listen to what it's trying to tell you. Tool number 1, shadow work. Carl Jung's most revolutionary concept was the shadow, the hidden part of our psyche where we store everything we've rejected, denied, or harshly judged about ourselves. This includes the anger, the sadness, the jealousy, the fear, even the intense desire to feel powerful, loved, or truly seen. These aspects don't simply vanish into thin air. They go underground, and they often leak out through our addictions, our projections onto others, and our self-sabotaging patterns. Shadow work is the conscious process of bringing the unconscious into the light. It involves sitting down with yourself in a safe space and asking, what part of myself have I locked away because I thought it was unacceptable? What difficult truth am I desperately avoiding looking at, even though I desperately need to? You can begin your journey into shadow work through journaling. Try asking yourself, if my addiction had its own voice, what would it say to me right now? Write freely, without judgment. Allow it to speak through you. You might be surprised by how much profound truth is waiting just beneath the surface. Tool number 2, breath work. Now, Jung himself never explicitly taught breath work, but if he were alive today, he might recognize it as one of the most direct ways to connect with the unconscious mind through the body. Breathwork is the practice of using conscious, rhythmic breathing patterns to bypass the overactive thinking mind and tap into stored emotional energy. Our breath is the one bodily function that is both automatic and consciously controllable. and it can serve as a portal to the unconscious realm. When you breathe consciously, especially in a connected or circular pattern, you send a powerful signal to your nervous system that essentially says, "It's safe now. You can finally let go." What often follows is the release of buried emotions, unresolved traumas, or even long-forgotten memories. Some people cry, some laugh, some shake, and some experience a clarity they've never felt before in their lives. This isn't just an emotional detox, it's a profound act of psychological integration. You're clearing the energetic blocks that addiction attempted to numb. Addiction seeks to numb and suppress. Breath work seeks to reveal and liberate. Even a single breath work session can make you realize that the thing you were truly craving wasn't a substance or a behavior, it was your own authentic self. Tool number 3, symbolic ritual as a dialogue with the soul. Carl Jung often said, "The soul speaks in images." That's why symbols, dreams, and rituals possess such profound power. They bypass the analytical intellect and speak directly to the unconscious mind. When we're trapped in the grip of addiction, it's not just our habits that are out of sync, it's often our inner world that has been silenced, neglected, or completely ignored. Ritual becomes a powerful way to reopen that vital dialogue with our soul. But we're not talking about empty, meaningless ceremony. We're talking about a conscious act of deep connection. Here's a potent symbolic ritual you can try. Find a quiet, peaceful space and light a candle. Fire is a timeless symbol of purification and transformation. Sit comfortably in front of a mirror and gaze into your own eyes. Not to judge yourself, not to criticize, but simply to bear witness to your own being. Say aloud, "I know I've been trying to escape something. I don't fully understand it yet, but I'm here now, ready to listen." Write a heartfelt letter to the part of you that is struggling with addiction. Not to shame it, but to genuinely understand it, to offer compassion. Then, carefully fold the letter and place it beneath the flickering candle. Allow it to burn safely for about 15 minutes while you breathe deeply and simply stay present in the moment. This process is less about actively fixing anything and more about consciously reconnecting with yourself on a deeper level. You're letting your deeper self know that you are no longer alone, that you are there for yourself. So now that we've taken a closer look at the symptoms, met the shadow aspects of ourselves, and begun the important work of reconnection, it's time for the real alchemy, the profound transformation. Because healing from addiction isn't just about breaking a destructive habit, it's about evolving into someone new, or rather, someone who is truer to their authentic self. It's about finally answering the call that addiction was desperately trying to silence all along. This is the path that Carl Jung referred to as individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming your whole self. Not perfect, not polished, but truly integrated. You see, most people mistakenly believe that healing means simply returning to who they were before the addiction took hold. But Jung would gently remind you that that previous version of yourself was already fragmented, already disconnected, already suffering in silence. The ultimate goal isn't to go back to that person. It's to bravely move through the challenges and emerge as the version of yourself that addiction was actually pointing you towards, the version of you who feels inherently whole without needing to escape. Let's discuss what that actually looks like in the context of everyday life. Step 1. Create a life that genuinely nourishes your soul, not just one that fills your schedule. Jung firmly believed that most neuroses stemmed from a life that wasn't truly being lived, a life that felt inauthentic. This includes the soul-crushing job that drains your energy, the shallow relationships that numb your emotions, and the monotonous routine that leaves your spirit feeling unexpressed. You don't heal in isolation. You heal in an environment that authentically reflects your inner truth. So ask yourself these crucial questions. What aspects of my current life actively feed my addiction? And what aspects genuinely nourish my authenticity and my soul? Start small. Make one conscious choice each day, engage in one honest conversation, explore one creative outlet, honor one personal boundary. These aren't just acts of self-discipline, they are powerful acts of self-love and soul care. Step 2. Let meaning replace fleeting stimulation. Addiction thrives in a life that is overstimulated and fundamentally underconnected. We mindlessly scroll through social media instead of engaging in meaningful conversation. We binge-watch shows instead of taking time for quiet reflection. We endlessly consume instead of taking the time to create. So instead of simply asking, how do I stop this harmful habit, ask yourself, what is this intense craving truly asking for? Emotionally? Spiritually? Actively replace the destructive dopamine loop with meaningful activities that deeply resonate with your soul. Things like creating art without harshly judging it, sitting in comfortable silence and asking yourself how you truly feel, reading something that genuinely stirs your emotions and expands your mind, and spending quality time with people who create a safe space for you to be vulnerable and authentic, instead of just engaging in superficial small talk. When your life becomes a sanctuary where your true self feels welcome and celebrated, addiction starts to lose its destructive grip. Step 3. See relapse as a valuable messenger, not as a personal failure. Jung was clear on this point. Healing is not a linear process. The unconscious mind doesn't operate in straight lines. It spirals, it circles back, it repeats patterns until they are truly integrated and understood. Relapse, if it happens, is not something to be ashamed of. It is simply information. It's your psyche gently saying, you missed something important along the way. Let's take another look, with fresh eyes. You are not back at square one. You're simply on a deeper, more nuanced layer of the spiral. And this time, you are equipped with powerful tools, increased self-awareness, a more expansive vocabulary to express your needs, a supportive community, and an abundance of self-compassion. The real miracle occurs when addiction itself becomes the very reason you ultimately find your true self. When the thing that once felt like it would completely break you becomes the doorway to your ultimate liberation. Because that's truly what individuation is all about. It's not about self-improvement in the conventional sense. It's not simply about recovery. It is a profound process of reclamation, the triumphant return of all the lost and fragmented parts of yourself. The shadow self, the inner child, the creative artist, the passionate dreamer, the deeply spiritual seeker, weaving them all back together into one radiant, coherent, and authentic life. So, if you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. This is the very beginning of your long-awaited return home to yourself. If this journey has resonated with you, even in a whisper, take a moment to comment below, I'm coming home. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Fractal Wisdom for more videos that delve far beyond the surface and speak directly to the depths of your soul. You are not inherently broken. You are in the process of becoming. Your real self is patiently waiting to be discovered.